The second bullet caught Amanda Norwood in the right shoulder. Before her mind could process, the first one lodged in her side. Glass exploded around her. Gunfire cracked like breaking bones. And somewhere in the chaos, she heard a voice speaking rapid Korean, urgent, commanding, afraid. She'd thrown herself over a stranger, a kind old man who tipped 20% and called her young lady. Now she was bleeding out on a restaurant floor in Chicago. And the last thing she saw before darkness took her was him, tall, sharp-featured, terrifying. The Korean Mafia boss who would change everything with 4 words. She belongs to me now. In Korean culture, a blood debt is sacred. Absolute. When you save someone's life, you become bound to them in ways Western culture doesn't fully understand. Amanda didn't know this when her combat instincts kicked in. She didn't know that taking those bullets would mean losing her freedom. That the man who saved her life would also claim it. 30 seconds before those bullets tore through her body, Amanda Norwood was just trying to survive. 28 years old, raising 3 kids that weren't hers, working double shifts to keep the lights on. The Baekdu Palace was one of those upscale Korean restaurants where old money met new world danger. White tablecloths, soft lighting, and men in tailored suits who paid in cash and never raised their voices. She'd learned not to look too closely, not to ask questions. Just serve, smile, collect tips, go home. But 8 years as an army medic in Kandahar had wired Amanda's nervous system differently. When danger erupted, she didn't run away. She ran toward it. And on this particular Thursday night, that instinct would drag her into a world of violence, loyalty, and obsessive protection she never asked for and couldn't escape. The tray of empty soju bottles slipped from Amanda's hands before she consciously decided to drop it. Glass shattered across polished hardwood, the sound lost beneath something louder, the front windows exploding inward in a shower of crystalline violence. 3 men in black tactical gear poured through the breach, weapons raised, moving with the kind of precision that told Amanda everything she needed to know. Professionals, not amateurs. Military training, probably private security gone rogue. The red laser dots from their sights swept across the restaurant like searching fingers. Amanda's body was already moving. The elderly man in the corner booth, Kang Do-yun, her Thursday regular, froze with his teacup halfway to his lips. His weathered hand trembled slightly, green tea rippling in the delicate porcelain. He looked small suddenly. Fragile. The kind of fragile that didn't survive 3 assault rifles aimed at center mass. The laser dots converged on his chest. Cover. Assess. Protect. The training kicked in, overriding logic, overriding self-preservation. Amanda's shift manager was screaming somewhere behind her. Other diners were diving under tables, scrambling for the kitchen. Smart people running away from danger. Amanda ran toward it. She covered the 15 feet to Do-hyun's booth in what felt like slow motion and impossibly fast all at once. She saw his eyes widen as she crashed into him, using her full weight to drive him sideways out of the booth. Her body twisted, covering his, making herself the largest possible shield. The first bullet hit her left side, just below the ribs. It felt like being punched by someone wearing brass knuckles heated to burning. The second caught her right shoulder before the pain from the first one fully registered another punch, this one spinning her slightly, but she kept her body over Do-hyun's, kept him covered. Gunfire cracked and popped. Someone was returning fire. Do-hyun's security detail, probably. The ones she'd seen lurking near the kitchen entrance. More shouting in Korean. Running footsteps. The sharp, wet sounds of bodies hitting the floor. Then silence. Amanda's vision was already tunneling, gray creeping in from the edges. She was aware of being rolled off Do-hyun, of his weathered hands touching her face, of him speaking urgently into a phone. To her, she couldn't tell anymore. The restaurant ceiling tiles blurred above her. Someone had painted them cream with gold trim. Expensive. Everything in this place was expensive. Her blood was pooling beneath her, warm and spreading, mixing with spilled tea and broken porcelain. She thought about Jamal's inhaler prescription, about whether she'd paid this month's electric bill, about who would braid the twins' hair for school tomorrow. Stupid, she thought distantly. Stupid, stupid, stupid. They need you. Then the restaurant doors crashed open again. The sound cut through Amanda's fading consciousness like a blade. She turned her head barely, just enough, and saw him. Tall, sharp-featured, younger than she expected, maybe 35, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than 6 months of her rent. He moved with the kind of controlled violence that made the air around him feel dangerous, like standing too close to high-voltage wiring. His eyes swept the scene with cold precision, the 3 dead gunmen being dragged away by his men, the shattered glass, the blood. Then those eyes dark, calculating, absolutely merciless, locked onto her. He crossed the distance to his father in 4 long strides, dropped to his knees beside Do-hyun with the fluid grace of a predator. The old man was speaking rapidly in Korean, his weathered hands gesturing at Amanda, his voice urgent and insistent. She caught fragments through the haze. Saved me. Threw herself. The bullets meant for... The younger man's gaze moved to her wounds, assessing damage with the clinical efficiency of someone who'd seen plenty of bullet holes before. His expression shifted, not softening, but something being decided, something final and irreversible. He stood, turned to face the dozen men now filling the restaurant, and spoke with the kind of authority that didn't need volume. This woman took bullets for my father. Then, switching to English, looking directly at Amanda even as darkness pulled at her consciousness. You belong to me now, from this moment, under my protection, my responsibility, mine. The word hung in the air like a claim and a threat and a promise all at once. Amanda tried to speak, but her mouth only filled with a copper taste of blood. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. One of the suited men stepped forward, speaking rapid Korean, something about police, about complications. Let them come, the man said, crouching beside her. His hands slid under her body with surprising gentleness, lifting her as though she weighed nothing. She saved my father's life. That debt is absolute. She is family now, whether she wants it or not. Amanda's vision was fading, the restaurant blurring into shadow. The last thing she saw was his face above hers, beautiful in a harsh, unforgiving way, and the gold ring on his finger catching the light as he held her. She just wanted to pay her bills. She just wanted to go home. Now she was going somewhere else entirely. Amanda woke to the wrong kind of silence. Not the chaotic quiet of her crowded apartment where 3 kids breathed and stirred and occasionally cried out in their sleep. Not the mechanical hum of the ancient radiator that clanked every morning at 5. This was expensive silence, the kind that came with soundproofing and money and places where people like her didn't belong. Her eyes opened slowly. White ceiling, crown molding, soft lighting that didn't come from overhead fluorescents, but from carefully placed lamps that cast warm pools across pale walls. The bed beneath her was too soft, the sheets too smooth, the air too clean and filtered. Pain radiated from her side and shoulder, sharp but manageable. Medical-grade pain management. She knew the feeling, knew the fog of good pharmaceuticals versus the street stuff she'd seen ruin her sister. Ah, you're awake. Amanda's head turned, too fast. The room spun slightly. A woman stood near the door. Mid-40s, Korean, dressed in an immaculate cream blouse and tailored slacks. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her smile was professional, in a way that felt rehearsed. I'm Miss Jin, the woman said, moving closer with measured steps. I'll be your liaison to Mr. Park's household. How are you feeling? Mr. Park. The name settled in Amanda's chest like a stone. The man from the restaurant. The one who'd lifted her. The one who'd said, Where am I? Amanda's voice came out rough, scraped raw. A private medical facility. You were quite seriously injured. Miss... Jin poured water from a crystal pitcher into a matching glass. You've been unconscious for nearly 18 hours. Your surgery went very well. The bullets were removed cleanly. No permanent damage. Amanda accepted the water with her left hand. Her right shoulder was heavily bandaged. The kids, my nephew and nieces, where are they? Safe and being cared for. That's not an answer. Miss Jin's smile didn't waver, but something shifted in her eyes. A calculation. They're in a secure location. Being looked after by qualified care. You'll be able to see them soon. I want to call them. When you're stronger. I'm strong enough now. The doctor says. I don't care what the doctor says. Amanda sat up, ignoring the pain that lanced through her side. I need to know they're okay. I need to talk to them. Right now. Miss Jin's expression remained pleasant, but her hands folded in front of her in a gesture that was pure deflection. I understand your concern, but right now you need to focus on recovery. The children are fine. I can show you photos if that would help ease your mind. Photos. Not a phone call, not a video chat. Photos that could have been taken anywhere, anytime. Amanda's pulse kicked up. The monitors beside her bed beeped faster. I want to leave. I'm afraid that's not possible yet. Why not? The doctor needs to observe you for at least 72 hours. Head trauma, blood loss, post-surgical complications. It's standard protocol. Nothing about this felt standard. Day 2 arrived with breakfast on fine china and more deflections. Amanda asked about her apartment. Miss Jin said it was being secured. Amanda asked about her job. Miss Jin said the restaurant had been closed temporarily for investigation purposes. Amanda asked when she could leave. Miss Jin said, soon. In the afternoon, a different doctor came. Older man, kind eyes, spoke with a slight Korean accent. He examined her wounds, pronounced her healing well, then produced paperwork on a clipboard. Just some medical consent forms, he said gently. Standard documentation. Insurance purposes. Amanda was on a morphine drip. The pain was distant, but the fog was thick. The words on the pages blurred together. She signed where he pointed. 3 forms. Maybe 4. She couldn't remember later. The doctor smiled, collected the clipboard, and left. That night, alone in the too quiet room, Amanda stared at the ceiling and tried to think through the pharmaceutical haze. Something was wrong. Something beyond the obvious fact of being held in a medical facility she hadn't chosen, being separated from the kids, being told nothing real. She'd signed something. What had she signed? Day 3. He came. Taeyong Park entered the room like he owned it, because he probably did. Same black suit, or one identical to it. Same cold assessment in his eyes as he looked at her. Amanda was sitting up, off the morphine now, clear-headed and angry. You're healing well, he said. Not a question. Where are my kids? He pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped the screen, turned it toward her. Photos. Jamal sitting in a bright kitchen, eating what looked like fresh fruit. The twins playing in a backyard with grass too green to be Chicago in November. A kind-looking older woman watching them. They're safe, Taeyong said. At one of my properties, being cared for by Mrs. Lim. She raised my nephew. She's excellent with children. Amanda's hands clenched in the hospital sheets. You took them. I protected them, just as I'm protecting you. I didn't ask for your protection. No. He pocketed his phone, stepped closer. But you saved my father's life. That creates an obligation. In my culture, a blood debt is absolute. You gave your blood for my family. Now you're part of it. That's not how it works. That's exactly how it works. His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. The people who tried to kill my father know you saved him. They know your face, your name. They've already found where you lived, where those children went to school. The moment you left that restaurant, you became a target. The only thing keeping you alive right now is that you belong to me. Everyone knows it. Touching you means war with me. The logic was sound and terrifying. Amanda felt the trap closing. You made me a target by claiming me. They made you a target by attacking my father in front of witnesses. I made you untouchable. He paused, watching her face. Would you prefer I'd left you at a public hospital? Where anyone could walk in. Where those children would be vulnerable. Amanda's jaw clenched. What do you want from me? Nothing. This isn't about what I want. It's about what honor demands. Honor, Amanda repeated, the word bitter. You sound like the warlords I met in Afghanistan. Men who took what they wanted and called it tradition. Something flickered in Taeyong's expression. Not quite anger. Something else. The forms you signed yesterday, he said. Do you remember them? Cold washed through Amanda's chest. Medical consent. One was medical consent. He pulled papers from inside his jacket, unfolded them, held them where she could see. Legal letterhead. Dense paragraphs of text. Her signature at the bottom, messy but unmistakably hers. The others were dependency guardianship agreements. You're now legally under my household. I am your legal guardian. The room tilted. You can't leave without my permission, Tae-yong continued, his voice clinical. You can't testify without my approval. You can't make independent legal decisions regarding your person or those children. In the eyes of the law, you belong to me now. Amanda stared at the papers, at her own signature, at the cage she'd signed herself into while drugged and desperate. You had no right. I had every right. You saved my father. That debt is absolute. This isn't protection, Amanda whispered, fury and fear warring in her chest. This is ownership. Tae-yong folded the papers, returned them to his jacket. Sometimes, he said quietly, they're the same thing. He turned to leave. What about my choice? Amanda's voice cracked. What about what I want? Tae-yong paused at the door, looked back. For the first time, something almost like regret crossed his features. You made your choice when you took those bullets. The rest is just consequences. Then he was gone, and Amanda was left alone with the truth. She'd sacrificed herself to save a stranger, and in return, she'd lost everything. The mansion in Lincoln Park looked like it had been pulled from a different century and dropped into modern Chicago. Stone facade, wrought iron gates, security cameras disguised as decorative elements. Amanda counted 6 visible ones on the drive up. That meant at least a dozen more hidden. She was being escorted by Miss Jin and 2 silent men in dark suits who moved like military. Former military, Amanda corrected mentally. You could always tell. The way they scanned surroundings, positioned themselves, kept their hands free. The car stopped. The door opened. Amanda stepped out and immediately heard it. Aunt Mandy. Jamal came running across the entrance hall, all 9 years of wiry energy and relief. Behind him, the twins hovered near an older Korean woman who must be Mrs. Lim. They looked clean, fed, unharmed. Jamal crashed into Amanda's legs, careful of her bandaged shoulder. You're okay, he breathed into her shirt. They said you were hurt bad, but you're okay. Amanda's hands went to his hair, his shoulders, checking him over with the same instinct that had made her throw herself over Do-hyun. I'm okay, baby. Are you okay? Are the girls okay? Mrs. Lim makes really good pancakes, he said. Then quieter. When do we go home? Amanda's jaw tightened. I don't know yet. Miss Jin cleared her throat gently. Let me show you to your rooms. The suite on the 2nd floor was larger than her entire apartment had been. Bedroom, sitting area, private bathroom with a tub deep enough to drown in. The children had adjoining rooms connected by a shared bathroom. Everything was elegant, expensive, and felt like a museum. The children are settled in well, Miss Jin said, standing at the threshold. Mrs. Lim has been wonderful with them. She'll handle meals, activities, basic care. You, of course, are welcome to spend as much time with them as you like within the house. Within the house, Amanda repeated. For your safety, yes. Now, let me explain the security protocols. Miss Jin's voice took on the tone of someone reciting memorized rules. Check. Ins. Every 4 hours. You'll need to confirm your location with the security team. The 1st floor, 2nd floor, and grounds are accessible. The 3rd floor is Mr. Park's private residence and is restricted. Kitchen access is between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. The main gates require authorization to open. Any deviation from any deviation. I'm a prisoner, Amanda said flatly. Miss Jin's smile was practiced sympathy. You're protected. There's a difference. Is there? Miss Jin left without answering. Over the next week, Amanda tested every boundary. She wandered the mansion at odd hours, memorizing layouts, exits, guard rotations. The security was professional but not military grade. Cameras covered the obvious angles, but there were blind spots. The kitchen entrance, the service hallway, the garden shed. She cataloged them all. The guards watched her, but didn't stop her. That bothered her more than if they'd been restrictive. It meant they were confident she couldn't actually get out. That the real walls weren't the stone ones, but something else entirely. The children were adapting too quickly. Jamal asked careful questions about when they were leaving. The twins just asked when Mrs. Lim would make her famous bulgogi again. Amanda read to them every night, her voice carrying through the quiet halls, a small claim of normalcy in the surreal. On day 8, Kang Do-hyun visited. He arrived in the afternoon, was ushered to the sitting room where Amanda was reading. He moved slower than she remembered, leaning on a cane she hadn't seen at the restaurant. His smile was warm, genuine. "I owe you my life," he said, settling into the chair across from her. "Words are insufficient, but I wanted to thank you in person." Amanda set down her book. "You don't owe me anything, Mr. Kang. I did what anyone would do." "No." His voice was firm. "Most people run from danger. You ran toward it. That says something about who you are." He produced a small velvet box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a jade bracelet, delicate and clearly antique. "My mother's. I would be honored if you would accept it." Amanda stared at the bracelet. "I can't. Please, it would mean a great deal to an old man." She took it. The jade was cool and smooth against her fingers. Over the following days, Do-hyun visited regularly. He brought books, first editions of poetry and philosophy. He asked about her life, listened to her stories about Kandahar, about raising kids who weren't hers, about the sister she'd lost to addiction. He told her stories in return. "My son was studying piano in New York," Do-hyun said one afternoon. "Conservatory. He had real talent. Gentle boy, thoughtful. Then his brother was killed and duty called him home. He gave up music, gave up the life he wanted, became what the family needed." The old man's eyes grew distant. "Sometimes I think I stole his soul and replaced it with obligation." Amanda heard what he wasn't saying. "You want me to fix him?" Do-hyun smiled sadly. "I want him to remember he's human, that strangers can still be brave, that protection doesn't always require walls and guns." You reminded him of something he'd forgotten. "That's a dangerous gift." "I'm not a gift. I'm a prisoner." "Are you?" Do-hyun's gaze was knowing. "Or are you something my son doesn't have a name for yet?" On day 14, Amanda picked the lock to Taeyong's study. It wasn't difficult. The lock was good, but she'd learned field improvisation in Kandahar where survival sometimes meant getting through locked doors fast. She used a bent paperclip and tension wrench fashioned from a hairpin. 30 seconds, maybe 40. The study was on the second floor, technically not restricted but clearly private. She didn't take anything, didn't disturb anything. She just stood at the window, looking out at the city beyond the gates, testing whether she still could. That lock cost $3,000. Amanda didn't flinch, didn't turn. She'd heard him coming. "You overpaid." Taeyong entered the study, closed the door behind him. Breaking and entering. "Should I be concerned you're planning an escape?" "If I was planning an escape, I wouldn't announce it by picking your lock." Amanda finally turned to face him. "I needed to know if your security is real or just expensive theater." "And?" "It's real, but not good enough." She met his eyes directly, unafraid. "Nothing you've built here will stop someone who's really determined. You know that, right? This isn't safety. It's just expensive waiting." Something shifted in Taeyong's expression. Not anger. Something closer to recognition. He crossed to the window, stood beside her looking out at the same view. "You're right," he said quietly. "Safety is an illusion. What I've built here is time. Space to identify threats before they reach critical proximity. That's all security ever is. Buying time. Time for what? To find the person inside my organization who wants my father dead, who wants me vulnerable." He glanced at her. "Your presence here is testing loyalties. Already I've heard whispers. Is she weakness? Has the boss gone soft? Am I making decisions based on emotion instead of calculation?" "And are you?" Amanda asked. Taeyong's jaw tightened. "I don't know anymore." The honesty surprised her. This man who'd legally claimed her, who'd trapped her in silk and stone, looked suddenly less certain, less cold. "Your father thinks I can save you," Amanda said. "That I'll remind you how to be human or some romantic nonsense like that. My father is a dying man engaging in wishful thinking. Is he wrong?" Taeyong looked at her fully then, and for the first time she saw something beneath the ice. Hunger, maybe. Loneliness. The exhaustion of a man who'd played a role so long he'd forgotten the person underneath. "I don't know," he said finally, "but you're the first person in 7 years who's looked at me like I'm accountable, like I'm still human enough to be judged. I don't know what to do with that." Amanda held his gaze. Start by treating me like a person instead of property. Even if that puts you in more danger? I'd rather die free than live as a possession. Something like respect flickered across his features. Then we need to talk. Really talk. About what's coming next. They didn't get to have that conversation. Not that night, anyway. Taeyong was called away by one of his men. Something urgent that required his immediate attention. He left Amanda standing in his study with a look that promised they'd continue this later. A promise that felt less like a threat and more like actual intent. Amanda returned to her suite, checked on the children, all three sleeping soundly, and lay down in her own bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind was too active for sleep. The conversation with Taeyong replayed on loop. The way he'd looked at her when she said she'd rather die free. Like he understood. Like maybe he felt the same way about his own gilded cage. She finally drifted off sometime after midnight. The power cut at 2:07 a.m. Amanda's eyes snapped open in the sudden darkness. No gradual dimming, no flicker. One moment the ambient nightlight in the bathroom was glowing softly. The next, complete black. Even the digital clock on the nightstand was dead. Her combat instincts fired immediately. This wasn't an accident. Power grids didn't fail this cleanly, this totally. This was deliberate. And in the 3 seconds of disorientation before emergency protocols would kick in, someone could move through a house like this undetected. Amanda was out of bed before she'd consciously decided to move, her bare feet silent on the plush carpet. She grabbed the ceramic lamp from the nightstand, yanked the cord free, held it by the base. Heavy enough to crack a skull. Good weight distribution. The children's rooms. She needed to get to the children's rooms. She was moving toward the connecting door when she heard it, the soft scrape of her suite's main door handle turning, someone testing whether it was locked. Then a click, a lock being picked, fast and professional. The door opened. Amanda positioned herself beside it, lamp raised, controlling her breathing the way she'd been taught. Let them come in. Let them commit to the space. Then strike fast, strike hard. Don't give them time to react. A figure slipped through the doorway, moving low and cautious. Male, medium build, dressed in black. In the darkness, Amanda couldn't make out features, but she could hear his breathing controlled, measured, professional. She waited until he was 3 steps inside, his attention toward the bed where he expected to find her sleeping. Then the emergency generators kicked in. Light flooded the hallway, spilled into the suite. The intruder's head whipped toward her, eyes wide behind a black balaclava. Amanda saw the moment he realized his mistake, saw him reach for something at his belt, and she swung the lamp with every ounce of strength she had. He dodged, faster than she expected, and the lamp glanced off his shoulder instead of his head. He stumbled back as footsteps thundered down the hallway. Taeyong's security team burst through the door, weapons drawn, shouting commands in Korean. The intruder didn't hesitate. He turned and dove through the window. Amanda hadn't even realized was open, glass that had already been cut away silently, a prepared exit route. The guards rushed to the window, but he was gone, dropping to a lower roof and disappearing into the night with the kind of parkour efficiency that spoke to extensive training. Amanda stood there, lamp still raised, adrenaline making her hands shake, not from fear. From the crash that came after combat, the body realizing it was safe and protesting all the stress hormones flooding her system. One of the guards started speaking rapidly into his radio. Another approached Amanda carefully, hands visible, non-threatening. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" "No. He didn't touch me." Her voice came out steady despite the shaking. 5, 10, maybe 1. 70 pounds. Military movement patterns, professional gear. Left-handed the way he reached for his belt, it was his left hand. Breathing pattern suggests excellent cardiovascular conditioning. He knew the security rotation, knew the power grid, knew which window to prep. The guard stared at her. More footsteps. Taeyong appeared in the doorway, still fully dressed despite the hour. His eyes swept the room, the open window, Amanda with her makeshift weapon, the guards processing everything in seconds. "Check the children," he said immediately. One of the guards moved to the connecting door, returned 30 seconds later. "All 3 sleeping, sir. Unharmed. Mrs. Lim is with them now." Taeyong's shoulders released tension Amanda hadn't seen him carrying. Then his gaze returned to her, taking in the lamp, her defensive stance, the absolute lack of panic in her expression. "You were ready," he said. "I'm always ready." Amanda lowered the lamp finally, set it on the nearby table. The power cut wasn't an accident. Someone with access to your security protocols cut it, knowing exactly how long the generators would take to activate. 45 seconds. That's a lifetime in tactical operations. 43 seconds. Taeyong corrected quietly. "You counted." Force of habit. He moved to the window, examined the frame where glass had been carefully removed and set aside. Professional work. No smash and grab. This was calculated, precise. He saw something on the wall near the window. Went still. "What?" Amanda asked. Taeyong's jaw tightened. He stepped aside so she could see. Spray painted in red, Korean characters dripping down the pale wall like blood. Suhan Han Yi, Zozoping Lur Tenda. "What does it say?" Amanda demanded. One of the guards answered in accented English, his voice tight. "The weak spot bleeds first." The message was clear. Amanda was the target. The vulnerability. The soft place in Taeyong's armor that could be exploited. She looked at Taeyong, saw the cold fury building behind his eyes. Not hot anger that would be easier. This was the controlled rage of a man calculating exactly how he'd destroy whoever dared to threaten what was his. "They're inside your organization," Amanda said, her voice cutting through the tension. "That's the only way they knew the power grid, the security rotation, which room was mine. Someone close to you is feeding information to your enemies. So what are you going to do about it?" Taeyong looked at her, really looked at her, not as a victim who needed protecting, not as property that had been threatened. At a soldier who'd been ready to fight, who'd given tactical assessments instead of dissolving into panic, who stood there demanding action instead of cowering. "We're going to find them," he said. And then, with a weight that felt like a shift in the entire structure of their arrangement. "Together." "Together," Amanda repeated, testing the word. "You were military. You think tactically. You see patterns." Taeyong gestured to his men. "Secure the floor. Full perimeter check. I want that intruder's entry and exit routes mapped. And find out who had access to the power grid schematics." The guards moved immediately. When they were alone, Taeyong turned back to Amanda. "You're not a possession I'm protecting anymore. You're a partner in this. If you're willing." "What changed?" Amanda asked. "I did. Tonight, watching you stand ready to fight with a lamp instead of hide under the bed." He paused, something almost vulnerable crossing his features. "You're the first person in 7 years who hasn't needed me to be strong for them. You're strong on your own. I don't know what to do with that except stop lying to both of us about what this is." "And what is this?" "I don't know yet," Taeyong admitted. "But it's not ownership anymore. It's something else. Something I need if I'm going to find the traitor before they kill my father. Before they kill you." Amanda held his gaze, saw the truth there. The calculation had cracked. The ice was melting. And underneath was a man as trapped as she was, just in a different kind of cage. "Okay," she said. "Together. But I want real information. Real involvement. Not protection. Partnership." "Agreed." The word hung between them like a new contract, one written in trust instead of obligation. Outside, sirens wailed. The police would come, ask questions, get deflected by expensive lawyers. The intruder was long gone. But the message remained, dripping red on white walls. The weak spot bleeds first. They had to find the traitor, and they had to do it before the next attack came. Because next time, Amanda might not be fast enough. And Taeyong was starting to realize that losing her would cost him more than honor. It would cost him the first real thing he'd felt in 7 years. The tension is rising as Amanda realizes the very man who protected her might be the only one she can trust to help her find a traitor. This story is reaching a global audience, and we'd love to know where you are watching from. Drop a comment below and tell us which city or country you're watching from. It's amazing to know who's writing with us. Now let's continue the story. The council meeting was called for 9 a.m. Amanda was summoned by Miss Jin at 8:30, told to dress appropriately, whatever that meant, and escorted to a part of the mansion she hadn't seen before, the West Wing, where business happened instead of living. The hallway was different here, less residential warmth, More corporate power. Dark wood paneling, subtle lighting, the kind of silence that came from soundproofing meant to keep secrets contained. Miss Jin stopped at heavy double doors. The council is already assembled. Mr. Park asked that you join them. Why? Miss Jin's expression was unreadable. He'll explain. She opened the doors. The room beyond was designed for intimidation. Long table, high-back chairs, walls lined with what looked like surveillance monitors showing various properties and locations. 12 men sat around the table, all Korean, all between 40 and 70. They wore expensive suits and expressions ranging from barely concealed hostility to cold assessment. Taeyong sat at the head of the table. He didn't stand when Amanda entered, but his eyes tracked her movement as she walked to the empty chair beside him that was clearly meant for her. Every man in the room watched her sit. The weight of their judgment was physical. Gentlemen, Taeyong said, his voice carrying easy authority, you've all heard about the incident last night. An intruder breached our security, reached the second floor, and left a message intended to demonstrate our vulnerability. He paused. Let that sink in. This confirms what we've suspected. We have a traitor within the organization feeding intelligence to our enemies. Murmurs around the table. One of the older men, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, spoke in Korean. Taeyong responded in the same language. Back and forth, rapid-fire discussion that excluded Amanda entirely. She sat still, listening to the cadence if not the words, watching the power dynamics play out. 3 of the men were clearly Taeyong's allies, deferring to him, supporting his points. 4 were neutral, waiting to see which way the wind blew. The remaining 5 radiated subtle opposition, the kind that stayed just shy of outright challenge. Finally, Taeyong switched to English. For her benefit, Amanda realized. There will be a gathering this weekend. The 5 families. Leadership from each organization, their key advisors. It's scheduled to honor my father's upcoming birthday, but it serves another purpose. It will force everyone to the same location, to interact, to reveal their hands. He looked at Amanda. You will accompany me, as my guest. He paused, choosing his word carefully. Partner. The room erupted. Men speaking over each other in Korean, voices sharp with objection. The silver-haired man slammed his palm on the table, spoke directly to Taeyong in rapid, angry Korean that needed no translation. This was outrage. Challenge. Taeyong listened without expression, then responded with controlled precision that silenced the room. One of the younger advisors spoke up in English, his tone deliberately provocative. You're using her as bait. I'm using her as proof, Taeyong corrected. Proof that I honor the blood debt. Proof that I protect what's mine. Proof that anyone who challenges that will face consequences. Her presence will provoke reactions. Those reactions will reveal loyalty. Or get her killed. Another man said bluntly. That's why she'll have full security detail. That's why. And if I refuse? Amanda's voice cut through the discussion like a blade. Every head turned to her. The room went absolutely silent. Taeyong's expression was unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes. Not anger, something closer to anticipation. What did you say? The silver-haired man asked, his English heavily accented but clear. Amanda stood slowly, meeting each man's gaze in turn. I said, what if I refuse? You're all sitting here discussing what to do with me like I'm a chess piece to be moved around the board. But I'm a person. I get a say in whether I walk into a room full of people who want me dead. The silver-haired man laughed, short and sharp. She has spine. I'll give her that. She has a choice, Taeyong said quietly. The authority in his voice made the room go still again. Everyone out. Hyungnim, one of the younger men protested. Out, now. They left. Some quickly, some with reluctance, all with backward glances at Amanda that ranged from curiosity to contempt. The silver-haired man was last, pausing at the door to study her with something that might have been respect. Then it was just Amanda and Taeyong in the too-large room. He stood, moved to the monitors on the wall, pressed a button that shut them all off, ensuring privacy. When he turned back to her, the mask of the cold boss had slipped slightly. You wanted the truth, he said. Here it is. He told her everything. His father was dying. 6 months at most, probably less given how fast the cancer was spreading. The organization was watching, waiting for the moment of transition when everything would be vulnerable. The attack at the restaurant hadn't been random. It was a test. Someone wanted to destabilize the power structure, absorb the Park family's territories, eliminate competition. There are 5 families in our alliance, Taeyong explained, his voice clinical but his eyes intense. The Parks, the Becks, the Chois, the Yoons, and the Kangs, no relation to my father. 4 of them are loyal, 1 is not. But I don't have proof. I can't move against them without evidence, and if I accuse the wrong family, the entire alliance fractures. Civil war, hundreds dead, decades of carefully built power destroyed. And I'm relevant because? Amanda asked, though she was starting to understand. Because you're an anomaly, an outsider I've publicly claimed, against tradition, against logic. That bothers them, makes them nervous. They'll want to test me. See if I'll really protect you when it's difficult, when it costs political capital, when it might make me look weak. He moved closer, his gaze holding hers. Your presence provokes reactions, and reactions reveal loyalties. Someone will make a mistake. Someone will show their hand. That's insane. That's the world I live in. Amanda processed this, her mind cataloging risks and possibilities. You're gambling that watching how people treat me will expose the traitor. Yes. And what do I get out of it? Besides staying alive, which frankly isn't guaranteed by this plan. Taeyong studied her face. What do you want, Amanda? It was the first time he'd used her first name. The intimacy of it caught her off guard. I want the truth, she said finally. Not protection. Not pretty lies about safety. I want to know what's happening, what risks we're taking, what my life actually is now. I want to be a person making choices, not a possession being moved around a board. Something in Taeyong's expression softened. Not much, but enough to be visible. I've spent 7 years having people agree with me because they fear me or need me. You're the first person who's demanded I justify myself, who's treated me like I'm accountable, like I'm still human enough to be judged. You are human. You've just forgotten how to act like it. Maybe. He was close now, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight he carried. Will you do this? Not because I'm ordering you. Because we're partners. Because this is the best chance we have to end this before someone else gets hurt. Amanda thought about the children sleeping upstairs, about Do-hyun's kind smile and failing body, about the intruder who'd come for her in the dark, about living the rest of her life looking over her shoulder, or taking one calculated risk to maybe, possibly, end it. Okay, she said. But we do this as equals. You don't hide things from me to protect me. You don't make decisions about my safety without consulting me. And if this goes wrong, you get me and those kids out. That's not negotiable. Taeyong extended his hand. Agreed. Amanda shook it. His grip was firm, warm, steady. Partners, he said. Partners, she echoed. And somewhere in the city, a traitor was making plans, not knowing that the weak spot they'd targeted was about to become the trap that caught them. The dress arrived the morning of the gathering. Midnight blue silk that moved like water. Elegant but not flashy. Conservative enough to show respect. Expensive enough to show status. Miss. Jin helped Amanda into it, then stood back with an approving nod. You look like you belong, she said. Amanda studied herself in the mirror. She looked like someone else entirely. Someone who moved in worlds of power and danger. Someone who wasn't a waitress from the south side counting tips and praying the car would start. That's the point, isn't it? Amanda said quietly. The security briefing came next. Taeyong's head of security, a former ROK Special Forces officer named Kwan, walked her through the estate layout, exit routes, panic protocols. He handed her a small pendant on a delicate chain. Emergency beacon, he explained. Press the center stone hard for 3 seconds. We'll have a team to you in under 90 seconds. Amanda fastened it around her neck. What if 90 seconds is too long? Kwan's expression didn't change. Then you use what you learned in Kandahar and you survive until we get there. He knew. Taeyong had told his security team what she was capable of. That felt like trust. Or tactical pragmatism. With Taeyong, maybe they were the same thing. The estate was 40 minutes outside Chicago, old money and new security. Stone walls, manicured grounds, the kind of place that looked like a wedding venue but functioned as a fortress. Cars lined the circular drive: Mercedes, Bentleys, one Rolls-Royce, that probably cost more than Amanda had earned in her entire life. Taeyong helped her out of the car, his hand steady at her elbow. He looked devastating in a charcoal suit, his hair styled back, every inch the powerful boss. But when he looked at her, there was something else in his eyes. Concern, maybe. Or calculation. Or both. "Stay close," he murmured. "Watch everything. Trust nothing." "Romantic," Amanda said dryly. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. "After this is over, I'll take you somewhere romantic. Somewhere without people trying to kill you. I'll believe it when I see it." They entered together. The great hall was stunning: vaulted ceilings, chandeliers that scattered light like diamonds, walls covered in art that was probably worth millions, and people. 50, maybe 60. Men in expensive suits, women in designer dresses, everyone moving with the careful choreography of those who understand power. Conversations stopped as they entered. Every head turned. Taeyong's hand moved to the small of Amanda's back, a gesture of possession and protection. He guided her into the room like he owned it, because in many ways he did. The 5 family heads were easy to identify. They stood in loose clusters, each surrounded by their advisors and enforcers. Old power recognizing old power. Amanda catalogued them quickly. Chairman Beck, distinguished and cold. Chairman Choi, younger, ambitious. Chairman Yoon, heavy-set and jovial in a way that didn't reach his eyes. Chairman Kang, ancient and watchful. And Chairman Bok, lean, predatory, with eyes that assessed everything and softened for nothing. Taeyong led her directly to them. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying, "I'd like to introduce Amanda Norwood. She saved my father's life by taking bullets meant for him. She is under my protection and part of my household." The reactions varied. Chairman Choi bowed slightly, spoke in accented English. "Your bravery honors you, Miss Norwood." Chairman Yoon studied her with open curiosity, said something in Korean that made his advisors laugh, not unkindly, but Amanda felt the assessment. Chairman Bak's expression didn't change. When he spoke, his English was flawless and cold. Tradition states that blood debts are paid between Koreans. This expansion of custom is unusual. Park Taeyong. Tradition also states that protecting those who protect our family is sacred. Taeyong replied evenly. "My father insists. I agree." "Your father?" Bak's smile was thin. "How is the old man's health? We heard concerning rumors." The room temperature dropped. The question was innocent on the surface, a pointed blade underneath. Before Taeyong could answer, a warm voice cut through the tension. "I'm dying, Bak. That's no rumor. That's just biology winning against stubbornness." Kang Do-hyun entered the hall with Mrs. Lim supporting his arm. He looked frailer than Amanda had seen him, but his eyes were sharp and his smile genuine. He moved directly to Amanda, took her hand in both of his with real warmth. "There she is, my guardian angel." He looked at the assembled families. "This woman has more honor in her heart than most men have in their entire lineage. Anyone who questions Taeyong's decision to protect her questions me. Is that clear?" The room shifted. Do-hyun's words still carried weight. Even dying, he was the old patriarch, the one who'd built half these alliances. Chairman Bak's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Calculation. Frustration. His son stood behind him, Minho, Amanda realized. Early 30s, handsome in a sharp way, watching her with interest that made her skin crawl. Not attraction. Assessment. Like a predator sizing up prey. The dinner was elaborate. Multiple courses, wine that probably cost more per bottle than Amanda's monthly rent used to be, conversation in Korean and English that danced around business without naming it directly. Amanda sat beside Taeyong, hyper-aware of every glance, every whispered comment. She noticed patterns. Chairman Beck's group ignored her completely, which felt like neutral positioning. Chairman Choi's people engaged politely but distantly, testing but not hostile. Chairman Bok's contingent, though, they watched. Minho especially, his gaze returning to her repeatedly with that predatory assessment. Between courses, Amanda overheard a conversation in English, deliberately in English, she realized, meant to be overheard. questions his judgment. A black woman, American, no family connections. It's disrespectful to tradition. Or, it's brilliant, unpredictable, makes him harder to read. Or it makes him vulnerable, weak, distracted by... Taeyong's hand found hers under the table, squeezed once. I hear it too. The main course arrived. Elaborate presentation, beautiful plating. Wine poured by silent servers. Amanda reached for her glass, then stopped. Something was wrong. Her glass looked identical to everyone else's, but the liquid caught the light differently. Viscosity slightly off. And the server who'd poured it had hesitated for a fraction of a second, his hand trembling minutely. Combat medic training. She'd learned to spot biological agents, chemical contamination, anything that didn't belong in the human body. This didn't belong. Amanda's mind raced. If she called it out, she'd tip their hand. If she drank it, she'd be incapacitated or dead. Unless... She turned to the man on her other side, one of Minho's bodyguards, who'd been watching her all night with barely concealed hostility. I don't drink, Amanda said clearly, pleasantly. Family history of addiction. Would you like mine? Seems a shame to waste such expensive wine. She switched their glasses smoothly, a gesture of polite offering. The bodyguard's face went white. He started to refuse, but Chairman Back was watching now, and refusing would be an insult, would draw attention, He drank. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then his breathing changed, his face flushed. He stood abruptly, stumbled, and collapsed to the floor convulsing. Chaos erupted. People shouting, standing, backing away. Amanda was on her feet, her medic training taking over. She checked his pulse racing. Pupils dilated. Classic signs of poisoning. She looked up at Taeyong. Call an ambulance. Nerve agent. Probably modified VX derivative. He has maybe 5 minutes. Taeyong was already on his phone, speaking rapid Korean. But his eyes were on Minho, on Chairman Bak, on the server who'd poured the wine and was now trying to disappear into the kitchen. Kwon and his team had the server on the ground in seconds. Taeyong's fury was controlled but terrifying. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Someone, he said quietly, just tried to kill my guest at a gathering meant to honor my father. Under the rules of hospitality, under sacred tradition. Someone in this room violated every code we claim to live by. His gaze swept the room, landed on Chairman Back. The trail leads to your household, Back. Your bodyguard. Your people. Explain. Chairman Back's face was a mask, but Amanda saw it. The micro-expression of someone whose plan had just gone catastrophically wrong. I know nothing of this, Bak said coldly. If my man was involved, he acted alone. Rogue element. Convenient, Taeyong said. I want proof, Chairman Yoon interjected. Real proof before we make accusations that could destroy the alliance. He was right. The bodyguard was dying. The server would talk, but he was just a hired hand, probably paid cash with no trail. Minho stood behind his father, expression carefully blank, but Amanda saw the calculation in his eyes. They needed proof. Direct evidence linking Chairman Back to the order. Amanda stood, aware every eye in the room was on her. She looked at Taeyong, saw the protective instinct warring with pragmatism in his expression. Let me get it, she said quietly. The proof you need. I can do it. No. Taeyong's voice was flat. It's the only way. They won't suspect me. They think I'm just the outsider, the weak spot. Let me be that. Taeyong's jaw tightened. Around them, the gathered families watched this exchange with intense interest. We'll discuss this, Taeyong said finally, privately. But Amanda could see it in his eyes. He was already calculating whether he could let her do this. Whether he could risk her. Whether partnership meant letting her walk into danger or protecting her from it. The private discussion happened in a secure room at the estate, just Amanda and Taeyong, while outside the families waited for direction on what would happen next. No. Taeyong's voice was flat, final. Absolutely not. It's the only way to get proof, Amanda insisted. They won't suspect me. I'm just the outsider, the anomaly. They think I'm your weakness. Because you are. The words came out harsh, and Taeyong's jaw tightened immediately, like he'd revealed too much. They'll use you against me, hurt you to test me. This isn't a game, Amanda. These people don't play by rules. Neither do I. Not anymore. Amanda stepped closer, forcing him to look at her. You said partnership. You said equals. But the first time things get dangerous, you want to lock me away and handle it yourself. That's not partnership. That's possession. That's protection. I don't need protection. I need purpose. I need to stop being the weakness everyone thinks I am, and become the weapon they don't see coming. Her voice was steady, certain. I can do this. I was trained for high-risk situations. I know how to read people, how to stay calm under pressure. Let me help you end this. Taeyong was silent for a long moment, the calculation in his eyes warring with something else, something that looked like fear. If something happens to you, then you'll come get me. That's the deal. Amanda held his gaze. Trust me to do this, the way I'm trusting you to pull me out if it goes wrong. Finally, reluctantly, he nodded. We do this my way. Full surveillance, extraction team on standby, and the second I think you're compromised, we pull you out. Agreed? Agreed. They returned to the gathered families and announced that the matter would be investigated through proper channels. Chairman Bak left quickly, Minho following with one last predatory look at Amanda that promised this wasn't over. 3 days later, the invitation arrived. The device was smaller than Amanda expected. Barely the size of a dime, hidden in the delicate pendant Kwan had given her at the gathering. Recording and transmitting simultaneously. Encrypted frequency. 30-hour battery life. It's sensitive enough to pick up conversations through walls if you're within 15 feet, Kwan explained, adjusting the clasp at her neck. But if they sweep for electronics, it'll show up. This isn't spy movie magic. It's just good enough to maybe work. Comforting, Amanda said. Taeyong stood by the window of his study, tension visible in every line of his body. He'd barely slept since agreeing to this plan. The invitation from Mrs. Bak had been delivered through intermediaries with barely concealed contempt, a tea meeting at the Bak estate. To meet the woman who bewitched Park Taeyong, the message had read. It was an obvious trap, which made it perfect. You don't have to do this, Taeyong said quietly. Yes, I do. We need proof. This is how we get it. There are other ways. Name one that doesn't take months we don't have. Amanda stood, smoothed down the conservative dress she'd chosen. Your father is dying. The traitor knows it. They're accelerating their timeline. We end this now, or more people die. Possibly me. Possibly the kids. Possibly you. That got through. Taeyong turned from the window, and the look in his eyes was something new. Something raw. If anything happens to you, then you'll come get me. That's the deal. That's partnership. Amanda crossed to him, close enough to see the exhaustion he hid from everyone else. Trust me to do this. The way I'm trusting you to pull me out if it goes wrong. His hand came up, almost touched her face, then dropped. Be careful. Careful isn't going to get us what we need. Then be smart, and come back. The weight of those words followed Amanda all the way to the Bak estate. Mrs. Bak was exactly what Amanda expected. Elegant, cold, and performatively polite. The tea ceremony was conducted in a sitting room that cost more to furnish than most houses. Delicate porcelain, artfully arranged flowers, conversation that cut like glass wrapped in silk. So you're the one, Mrs. Bak said in perfect English, studying Amanda over her teacup. The American waitress who threw herself over Do-hyun, like something out of a melodrama. How very impulsive. Instinct, Amanda replied evenly. I was a combat medic. You train to protect. It doesn't turn off. And now you're Park Tae-yong's. Mrs. Bak let the sentence trail off, inviting Amanda to fill the blank. Partner. How modern. The words dripped disdain. Though I wonder what someone like you could possibly offer someone like him. Beyond the obvious novelty, of course. Amanda sipped her tea, swallowed the insult with it. Perspective. Honesty. Someone who isn't afraid to tell him the truth. Because you have nothing to lose, Mrs. Bak's smile sharpened. Or perhaps you've gained too much. Living in his house. Your children in his care. It must be quite the arrangement. The threat was subtle but clear. We know about the kids. We know where they are. Amanda's hand didn't shake as she set down her cup. Do-hyun speaks highly of you, Mrs. Back. Says you were a teacher before you married. Poetry, wasn't it? The change of subject was deliberate, but Mrs. Back's expression flickered. The old man talks too much. A door opened. Minho entered with the kind of timing that felt staged. He'd been listening, Amanda realized, waiting for his cue. Mother, I didn't know we had a guest. His smile was all predatory charm. Miss Norwood, what a pleasant surprise. Is it? Amanda asked. His eyes glittered. I've been curious about you. The woman brave enough or foolish enough to tie herself to Park Tae-yong. Tell me, do you know what you've actually gotten yourself into? Why don't you enlighten me? Mrs. Back stood abruptly. I need to speak with the kitchen staff. Minho, entertain our guest. Try to be civilized. She left, and Amanda was alone with a man who'd watched her like prey at the gathering. I need to use the restroom, Amanda said immediately. Minho gestured down the hall. Third door on the left. I'll wait here. The bathroom was exactly where he said. But 2 doors down was an office door closed but not locked. Amanda checked the hallway, slipped inside, moved fast. The desk was organized, professional. Computer password protected, but there were papers. Communications, logs. She photographed everything with her phone, working quickly, aware each second increased her risk. Then she found it. Emails printed out correspondence between Chairman Bach and someone identified only as the Tiger. Plans laid out in careful detail. Eliminate Do-hyun. Destabilize Taeyong's authority. Absorb Park territories during the chaos. Timeline accelerated due to Do-hyun's failing health. And at the bottom of the latest message, next target, Park Tae-yong himself. Do-hyun's birthday celebration. Maximum chaos, maximum impact. Amanda's hands were steady as she photographed it all. Sent the photos to the secure cloud account Kwon had set up. Evidence secured. She heard footsteps in the hallway. Amanda shoved the papers back, moved toward the door too late. Minho stood in the doorway, his expression shifting from suspicion to certainty. Looking for something? I got lost, Amanda said. In my father's private office. How unfortunate. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. Who are you really working for, Miss Norwood? What does Tae-yong know? Nothing. I was just... His hand shot out, faster than she expected, grabbed her pendant, yanked hard enough to break the chain. He studied the device hidden inside and his smile turned vicious. Clever, but not clever enough. He crushed it under his heel. Amanda's training kicked in. She struck fast, palm heel to his nose, knee to his groin. Minho stumbled back with a snarl, blood streaming from his face. He was bigger, stronger, but Amanda had fought in places where losing meant dying. They crashed into the desk. He grabbed her wrist, twisted. She used the momentum, drove her elbow into his throat. He choked, released her, and she ran for the door. Chairman Back stood in the hallway with 4 guards. Restrain her, he said calmly. Carefully. She's proven to be more dangerous than she looks. Amanda fought, took down one guard with a strike to the knee, another with a thumb to the pressure point behind his ear. But there were too many, and they weren't trying to kill her, just contain her. Within 30 seconds, they had her arms pinned, her body controlled. Minho emerged from the office, wiping blood from his face. She photographed everything, sent it somewhere before I stopped her. Chairman Bach's expression didn't change. Then we have limited time. Take her to the basement. Find out what Tae-yong knows. Find out what she sent. And find out where those files went. The basement was concrete and cold, and designed for this. Soundproofing, drains in the floor, equipment that made Amanda's stomach turn. They zip-tied her to a metal chair. Chairman Back stood in front of her, immaculate in his expensive suit, looking at her like she was an insect. Who do you work for? He asked. What does Park Tae-yong know about our operations? Amanda said nothing. Minho hit her, open-handed across the face, hard enough to split her lip. Answer my father. Blood filled Amanda's mouth. She spit it on the floor, still said nothing. The interrogation continued. questions punctuated with pain. They were professionals, knew how to hurt without killing, how to break someone down systematically. But Amanda had been trained to resist interrogation, had survived worse in Kandahar when her convoy was ambushed, and she was separated from her unit for 18 hours before extraction. She could do this. She could survive this. Taeyong is coming, he promised. Partners. Hours passed, or maybe minutes that felt like hours. Time distorted when every breath hurt. Chairman Bak's patience was eroding. You're protecting him, he said. Taeyong, you die for him. How touching. How pointless. Amanda's vision was blurring, but she smiled through broken lips. The evidence, already sent. You're finished. We'll see, Chairman Bak said. Minho, continue. I need to make some calls. Accelerate our timeline. If Park knows, we move tonight. He left, and Minho's expression promised the worst was yet to come. But somewhere in the city, Taeyong had lost her signal. The photos had uploaded successfully. Quan confirmed it, but the wire went dead, and Amanda stopped checking in. And Taeyong, the man known as the Cold Hand, who never acted in anger, felt something inside him fracture. Fear, raw and consuming. He was already moving, and nothing would stop him from getting to her. Taeyong didn't call ahead, didn't negotiate, didn't follow protocol. He arrived at the Bak estate with 20 men, 3 vehicles, and a fury that had burned through 7 years of carefully maintained control. The gates were closed. He had them rammed open. Security tried to stop him at the entrance. They were incapacitated within seconds, not killed, but removed as obstacles with efficient brutality. Quan led the tactical team. Taeyong led with something darker. She is mine, he said to the first guard who raised a weapon. His voice was quiet, which made it more terrifying. You touched what's mine. Where is she? The guard's resolve lasted approximately 5 seconds under Taeyong's gaze. Basement. East wing. Please, we were just... Taeyong was already moving. The basement door was reinforced steel. It took 40 seconds to breach. 40 seconds during which Taeyong imagined every worst-case scenario his mind could construct, each one worse than the last. Then the door gave way. Minho looked up from where he stood over Amanda, his hands bloody, his expression shifting from cruel satisfaction to dawning fear as he recognized who'd just entered. Amanda was zip-tied to a metal chair, her face swollen and bleeding, her dress torn. But her eyes were clear and defiant, fixed on Minho with a hatred that promised violence if she ever got free. She was alive, conscious, unbroken. The relief that flooded Taeyong was immediately consumed by rage. Step away from her, Taeyong said. Now. Minho reached for the gun at his belt. He was fast. Taeyong was faster. The first bullet shattered Minho's kneecap. He went down screaming. The second took his shoulder, spinning him to the concrete floor. Taeyong crossed the distance in 3 strides. Gun trained on Minho's head, his finger steady on the trigger. Wait, Minho gasped. Wait. We can negotiate, my father. Your father ordered this. You executed it. There's nothing to negotiate. Please. The third bullet ended it. Clean. Final. No hesitation. Taeyong holstered his weapon and turned to Amanda. Quan was already cutting her restraints, speaking quietly to her, checking her injuries with professional efficiency. But Amanda's eyes were on Taeyong. You came, she said, her voice rough but steady. Always. He crouched in front of her, his hands gentle as they assessed the damage Minho had inflicted. Bruises blooming across her face, split lip, possibly cracked ribs. Rage threatened to consume him again, but he forced it down. She needed him calm. Can you walk? Yes. She proved it by standing, swaying slightly, then steadying herself with pure will. The evidence uploaded. Everything. Communications, plans, targets. It's all there. I know. We have it. Taeyong's hand found the small of her back, supporting her without making it obvious she needed support. Chairman Bak? Upstairs. Called to accelerate the timeline. He knows we know. Then we end this tonight. Chairman Bak was apprehended attempting to leave through a service exit. He didn't fight, didn't run. Just stood there with cold dignity as Taeyong's men surrounded him, as if this were a minor inconvenience rather than the end of everything he'd built. Park Tae-young, he said calmly. This is a mistake. Whatever that woman told you is backed by documentation, communications between you and the Gwangju Syndicate, plans to assassinate my father, plans to kill me at his birthday celebration. All in your handwriting, Chairman Bak. Or should I say, former Chairman Bak. The title correction hit harder than a bullet. Bak's composure cracked slightly. You have no authority. I have evidence, and I have witnesses. Tae-young gestured to his men. Take him to the main house. Call the other family heads. Emergency council. Tonight. By midnight, they were assembled. Chairman Choi, Yoon, Kang, and Baek, brought from their homes by urgent summons, arrived at the Park mansion to find Chairman Baek restrained in the council room, evidence projected on screens, and Amanda Norwood sitting beside Tae-young with her injuries on full display. The message was clear. This is what they did to her. This is what they tried to do to us all. Kwon presented the evidence methodically. Emails, communications logs, financial transfers, the full scope of Chairman Bak's conspiracy with the Gwangju Syndicate to destabilize the Park family and absorb their territories. The other chairman listened in silence. When the presentation ended, Chairman Kang spoke first, his ancient voice carrying absolute authority. The evidence is irrefutable. Chairman Bak has violated every code we live by, betrayed the alliance, attempted murder of a family head, conspired with external enemies. He looked at Bak with something like pity. What do you have to say? I did what was necessary for my family's survival, Bak said coldly. The Parks are weak. A dying old man and a son too soft to do what's required. I saw an opportunity. You saw a chance to betray brothers for profit, Chairman Choi interrupted, his voice disgusted. There's no honor in that, no justification. The vote was unanimous. Chairman Bak was stripped of his position. His family's assets would be dissolved, distributed among the remaining families. And Bak himself. Traditional sentence, Chairman Yoon said heavily. Execution. Carried out by the wronged party. All eyes turned to Tae-young. He stood slowly, looked at Amanda. She met his gaze and nodded slightly. Do what you have to do. It will be handled, Tae-young said. Privately, with witnesses, by sunrise. Amanda watched it all. The cold calculation, the traditional justice, the absolute certainty with which these men decided life and death. This was the world she'd entered. The world she'd chosen when she agreed to partnership. And when Chairman Bak was led away, when the other families departed with promises of renewed loyalty, when it was finally just her and Tae-young in the quiet aftermath, she realized she wasn't horrified. She understood it, the necessity, the code, the darkness required to protect what mattered. Back at the mansion, in Tae-young's private suite, he tended her wounds with surprising gentleness. Antiseptic on cuts, ice for swelling, careful hands that had just ordered a man's death now treating her injuries with meticulous care. Why didn't you break? He asked quietly, not looking at her face while he worked. They would have killed you. You knew that. You could have told them everything, bought yourself time. Because you needed that proof. Because we're partners. Because I chose this. Amanda caught his hand, made him look at her. I meant what I said. I'd rather die free than live as a possession. But somewhere along the way, this stopped being about possession. This became something else. What? Tae-young's voice was rough, vulnerable in a way she'd never heard. I don't know yet, but it's real. And I chose it. I chose you. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. His hand came up to her face, careful of her bruises, cradling her jaw like she was something precious and breakable despite all evidence to the contrary. I thought I'd lost you, he whispered. When your signal went dead, when you stopped responding, I thought. But you didn't. I'm here. We're here. He kissed her then, gentle despite everything, tasting of desperation and relief, and something neither of them had names for yet. The moment shattered when someone knocked urgently on the door. Miss Jin's voice strained and worried. Sir, it's your father. He's collapsed. The doctor says, her voice broke. You should come now. Do-hyun was in his bed, pale and struggling for breath, when they arrived. The doctor stepped back, his expression grave. Weeks, he'd said the cancer would give them. Maybe a month. But sometimes the body decided it was done fighting. Do-hyun's eyes opened when Tae-yong and Amanda entered. He smiled, weak but genuine, seeing them together, her injuries, his protective stance, the way their hands were linked without either seeming aware of it. Good, the old man whispered. You found each other. That's good. Father, save your strength. For what? Do-hyun's laugh was barely a breath. I'm dying, my son. Have been for months. Let me have this. Let me see that you're not alone anymore, that you remember how to be human. His hand reached out. Tae-yong took it. Amanda took his other hand. This old man who'd orchestrated everything, who'd pushed them together, who'd seen in a stranger's sacrifice the possibility of his son's salvation. Thank you, Do-hyun said to Amanda, for saving my life, for saving his. Rest, Amanda said softly. We're here. Both of us. Do-hyun's smile widened slightly, and his eyes closed. His breathing settled into something easier, more peaceful. The doctor murmured quietly, Days, maybe a week. The cancer has spread to his lungs. Tae-yong nodded, his jaw tight. Amanda squeezed his hand, and he squeezed back. They sat with Do-hyun through the night, keeping vigil. Two people who'd been forced together by blood debt and circumstance, now choosing to stay together through whatever came next. 3 weeks later, Do-hyun's room had been transformed into hospice care. Medical equipment hummed softly in the background, but the space still felt like his, filled with books, photographs, the jade figurines he'd collected over decades. Mrs. Lim kept fresh flowers on the windowsill. The children drew pictures that were taped to the walls. Amanda read to him every afternoon. Poetry mostly, the classical Korean verses he loved, though her pronunciation made him smile and gently correct her. Sometimes she read in English Mary Oliver, Maya Angelou, poets who understood both beauty and survival. On a Tuesday afternoon, when sunlight slanted gold through the windows, Do-hyun's hand found hers and squeezed weakly. I need to confess something, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Amanda set down the book. You should rest. I manipulated you. Both of you. His eyes were clear despite the morphine, sharp with the urgency of a man running out of time. After the shooting, when Tae-yong wanted to just protect you quietly, compensate you financially, I insisted on the public claim, on the guardianship papers. I pushed you together deliberately. Amanda wasn't surprised. She'd suspected for weeks. Why? Because I was dying, and my son had become a ghost. Cold, efficient, inhuman. 7 years of duty had hollowed him out. Yun's grip tightened slightly. Then you threw yourself over me. A stranger with nothing to gain. Pure instinct, pure bravery. And I saw his face when he looked at you, something cracked. The first real emotion I'd seen in years. So I engineered it. Used tradition, used obligation, forced you into his life because I needed to know he'd remember how to be human before I died. That's remarkably manipulative, Amanda said. Yes. No apology in his voice, just acknowledgement. Are you angry? Amanda considered. Was she? She'd been trapped, controlled, her choices stolen. But she'd also found purpose, partnership, something that felt dangerously close to love with a man who saw her as an equal. The children were safe. She was alive. And the cage had become something else entirely. No, she said finally. You gave me a reason to matter, even if the method was questionable. Do-hyun's smile was relieved, grateful. Thank you. For indulging a dying old man's schemes. For saving my life. For saving his. Rest now, Amanda said softly. But Do-hyun had one more thing to ask. Will you marry him? Properly. Traditional ceremony. Let me see it before I go. Please. That evening, Amanda and Tae-yong stood on the mansion's terrace. The city lights spread below them like scattered diamonds. You don't have to do this, Tae-yong said quietly. Any of it. The guardianship papers, I'll have them dissolved. You're free to leave whenever you want. The children, too. I'll ensure your safety regardless, but you're not trapped anymore. Amanda looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd claimed her out of duty and learned to see her as a person, who'd trusted her as a partner, who'd torn apart an enemy organization because they'd hurt her, who played piano when he thought no one could hear, trying to remember who he used to be. What do you want? he asked. The same question he'd posed once before, but different now, weighted with possibility instead of obligation. I want to choose this, Amanda said. Not be owned, but belong. There's a difference. Belonging is mutual. It's chosen. It's built on respect and trust and... She paused, searching for the right words. And whatever this is between us. This thing that started as duty and became something real. Taeyong's hand found hers. Love. It's called love, Amanda. Is it? She smiled slightly, testing the word. I've never had the luxury of that before. Neither have I. Not like this. He turned to face her fully. Will you marry me? Not because my father wants it. Not because of obligation or blood debt or tradition. Because I want you to stay. Because somewhere between you picking my locks and taking torture for me, I fell in love with you. And I want to choose you every day for the rest of my life. Amanda's answer was a kiss. Yes, wrapped in the way she pulled him close. In the way she whispered against his mouth. I choose you too. The ceremony was small, traditional, held in the mansion's garden with Do-hyun present in a wheelchair, wrapped in blankets, smiling through his pain. The children were there, Jamal serious in his suit, the twins fascinated by Amanda's hanbok. Mrs. Lim cried. Miss Jin looked pleased. The remaining family heads attended as witnesses, their presence an endorsement that legitimized everything. Amanda wore red and gold, Taeyong wore traditional robes, and they bowed to each other, to the ancestors, to Do-hyun who'd orchestrated it all. When they shared the ceremonial wine, when their hands joined, it was choice, not obligation. Do-hyun's eyes were bright with satisfaction. Good, he whispered to Mrs. Lim. It's good. That night, peacefully, with his son and daughter-in-law keeping vigil, Kang Do-hyun died. His last breath was easy, released. The burden of worry finally lifted. The funeral was massive. Representatives from all 5 families, business associates, community leaders. Amanda stood beside Taeyong throughout, her presence no longer controversial but accepted. She was his wife now, his partner, part of the organization's future. People who'd once looked at her with contempt now offered respect. She'd proven herself taken torture without breaking, obtained evidence that saved them all, stood unflinching beside Taeyong as he navigated the aftermath. She'd earned her place, not through obligation but through choice and courage. 6 months later, the medical clinic opened in a renovated building on the south side. Legitimate, legal, funded by the park organization's increasingly legitimate business interests. Amanda ran it using her medic training to provide healthcare to communities that needed it most. Free clinics, trauma counseling, addiction recovery programs. She was building something good from the foundation of something dark. Redemption, maybe. Or just evolution. The children thrived. Jamal was top of his class, bilingual now, talking about becoming a lawyer. The twins were in dance classes, piano lessons, growing up safe and loved and whole. Mrs. Lim spoiled them. Taeyong taught them strategy through chess games. Amanda taught them that kindness and strength weren't mutually exclusive. The organization was changing too. Under Taeyong's leadership, with Amanda's influence, they were shifting, still powerful, still dangerous when necessary, but investing in legitimate businesses, community programs, building something that could exist in daylight. One evening, Amanda found Taeyong in the music room he'd abandoned 7 years ago. The piano was uncovered now, polished, maintained. He sat at the keys, not playing, just touching them like greeting old friends. Play something, Amanda said from the doorway. He looked up, smiled the real smile he saved only for her. I've forgotten most of it. Then relearn. She crossed to him, sat beside him on the bench. You taught yourself to be cold for 7 years. You can teach yourself to be whole again. His hands found the keys. The music was hesitant at first, then growing stronger, a Chopin nocturne emerging from memory and muscle. Amanda leaned against his shoulder, listening, and thought about how far they'd come from that night at Baekdu Palace. From bullets and blood and forced claims to this. Chosen partnership, built family, hard-won peace. You gave me back something I thought I'd lost, Taeyong said quietly, still playing. Purpose beyond power. Connection beyond duty. Myself. We gave each other that, Amanda replied. I was invisible before you. Surviving, not living. You made me matter. Made me strong. Made me believe I deserved more than scraps. His hands stilled on the keys. He turned to her, and the look in his eyes was everything. Gratitude, love, respect, partnership. From blood debt to blood choice, he said. From possession to partnership, she agreed. From forced together to choosing to stay. Amanda kissed him, soft and certain. Every day. I choose you every day. Outside, the city lights glittered. Inside, the children laughed somewhere upstairs. Mrs. Lim was cooking, the smell of Korean food and American comfort dishes mingling. Miss. Jin was managing schedules. Kwan was coordinating security. This was family. Built from violence and duty and manipulation, transformed by choice and courage and love. Amanda had taken bullets for a stranger and become the queen of an empire she never asked for. But somewhere along the way, the empire became hers. Not through force, but through earning it. Through proving she deserved to stand beside the man who'd once claimed her and now chose her every day. They were equals, partners, two people who'd survived darkness and built something luminous from the wreckage. And that, Amanda thought as Taeyong resumed playing and she listened, was worth every bullet, every moment of fear, every impossible choice that had led her here. She'd wanted to matter, to be seen, to be free. She'd found all three. Not by being saved, but by saving herself and the man who'd learned to love her along the way. From taking bullets for a stranger to becoming the queen of his empire, Amanda chose her own destiny. She wasn't saved by love, she built it with her own hands. If you want more Korean mafia romances where love is earned, not given, subscribe to our channel for daily stories where strength meets vulnerability, where darkness finds light, and where the most dangerous choice of all is opening your heart. What did you think of Amanda and Taeyong's journey? Let's hear from you in the comment.